Hello and welcome to the 5th episode of the PD Smash podcast. Today, we're going to have a lot of topics in store for you, including how Taysom Hill did in his first start in the NFL, what Drew Brees accomplished last week, and the shocking upset the Rams had, with a final full topic for sportsmanship. So first, I really want to talk about Taysom Hill's first start. I think his start was insane. But in the first half, he did look horrible. It was pitiful. I thought they were going to bench him in the first half. In that second half, he absolutely lit it up. And it does look like he might be the future for this. I don't even know what to say. This insane Saints team that even after Drew Brees is going to be gone, looks like they're still going to be title contenders. So I really personally think that this Saints team right here with Michael Thomas, with Alvin Kamara, with that really good defense now, even without Drew Brees and in place of Taysom Hill, can make a run for the title. Now, I know Drew Brees is coming back, and I want to talk about Drew Brees in just a second. But I think even after Drew Brees comes back, I think this team's going to be dangerous for years to come. Whether they start Taysom or they start Jameis. Either way, they're going to be in great shape for the years to come. And I think that Sean Payton is going to end up going down as one of the best coaches of all time. Because even he's so good now, and then he might get more Super Bowls as time goes on due to the fact that he's still going to get so much talent around his team. I think that we need to give more props to the Saints general manager and the Saints front office for being able to sign and draft all these players that are either savvy veterans or are really good players. And Michael Thomas right now is a top 3 receiver in the NFL, arguably number 1. If you listen to the previous podcast, you know how much my brother loves to stan Michael Thomas, because he is really that good. Then you have a top 5 running back in the league in Alvin Kamara. And then you have so many other things to go along with that, like Marshawn Lattimore. Among Cam Hayward, you have so many. Oh, my apologies, not Cam Hayward, Cameron Jordan. And you just have so many stars around that defense, and it seems like that's going to go on for a long time. As long as they can get that wide receiver issue, the depth figured out, which I think they can. I think there are some potential there in that roster, plus they can address it through the draft. I think that they're going to have a really, really good team for years to come. Now, I talked about the Saints in terms of their roster, but I want to talk about something Drew Brees did. So, as we know, Drew Brees got injured, but a lot of us don't know what exactly Drew Brees did. When he got injured, he still led the Saints down the field before halftime with 10 broken ribs and a collapsed one. That's insane. I don't care if you're the least mobile quarterback in the league. Being able to withstand that much pain and still be able to be accurate enough with the ball to drive your team all the way down the field, that's insane. That goes with the likes of like Phillip Rivers tearing his ACL, I believe. It's either his ACL or his Achilles heel, or Achilles tendon, my apologies. And just going down the field and driving the Chargers in a playoff game. It's like that level of insane. It's crazy. And there are not many people in the NFL that can do something like that. It's like him, Phillip Rivers. Then you got like Ronnie Lott, who cut off his fingertip. It's like those level of tough players that you get with this caliber of story. And I think this is an underrated story for Drew Brees that I think in 10, 20 years we're going to look back and be like, wow, that's impressive. And I think it's going to be what's going to propel him into more of a legend status versus this was just a great quarterback. It's going to be the difference between like a Joe Namath and like a Dan Marino. you ask a lot of people who Joe Namath is who aren't big football fans, they'll be like, who is Joe Namath? But you ask people who Dan Marino is, and they'll be like, I know who Dan Marino is. Hands down, 100%. I think that's what's going to change Drew Brees from being like a great quarterback that no one knows to a great quarterback that knows that a lot of people know because of stories like this one that I think are going to come out over time. Now, I think next I want to talk about how the Rams absolutely obliterated the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, it doesn't seem like it from the score, but if you watch that game, the Rams are in control that entire game. It doesn't seem like the Rams lost handle of the game once throughout that entire second half. It felt like the Rams knew what they were doing, executed their game plan, and shut down the Buccaneers. I really and I don't understand how, with all those weapons, Bruce Arians couldn't find a way to counter it. Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones are good running backs. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, among so many others, Scotty Miller, that offense is stacked. And you're telling me they couldn't generate more than 24 points of offense? That's insane. Especially against a Rams team that's defense is good, but it's not the Steelers. It's not the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. It's not elite. It's really good, don't get me wrong, and that defense is going to be scary as this year goes along because it's just seeming to gel more and more as the year goes along. But still, you could win. No one has three number one corners on the roster. And you have three number one wide receivers on the roster. And you're telling me you couldn't get any offense at all on that last drive? You're telling me that's insane. And then to Tom Brady, who had horrible decisions throughout that entire game, I just don't understand it. Now, I really want to talk about the announcers too, because they kind of refuse to acknowledge how bad Tom Brady was playing through that second half. They'd be like, oh, he's had a very bad half. But he wasn't talking about the specifics, how Tom Brady would miss wide open throws, how he would drive the ball low at points. And I think that's a product of him being the GOAT, but he's no longer the Tom Brady of old. That ended in 2018 when he was dethroned by Nick Foles in the Super Bowl with the Philly special. Ever since then, he's not been the same. He's not been the same Tom. If you look, he really just hasn't been the same Tom Brady. Yeah, they won the Super Bowl next year, but it wasn't like it was because of Tom. No, it was because of that defense and because Julian Edelman. And that wasn't Tom Brady. That was Bill Belichick, and that was the supporting pieces around Tom Brady carrying him. And then you see it again with the Titans. And now here, every time it seems they get down, he doesn't have the it factor anymore, in my opinion. You can just see it. And now, it's that it. And he's just so, you could tell he looks so horrible in games. Physically, he looks horrible. He doesn't look like his prime self anymore. He doesn't look happy. He just looks dejected almost. And all that together, it's he's almost not even a top 10 quarterback anymore because he just can't will his teams anymore. He doesn't have the arm talent he used to. He's still one of, if not the best mind in football, don't get me wrong. He can still make a lot of the throws, but it's just there's no it factor to him that he used to have, and it's pushing him farther and farther down the list of quarterbacks. I don't think, it's getting, the list is getting wider of quarterbacks that are better than him, hands down. Right now, just off the top of my head, you got Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, you got Josh Allen, you got Drew Brees, you got Aaron Rodgers, you got Russell Wilson. That was in no particular order, of course. But that's just 7 quarterbacks off the top of my head that I just named that are, in my opinion, hands down better. Yeah, you could be like, Deshaun Watson's only won 3 games. Who gives 2 shits? His team is worse. All around his team's worse. His O-line is worse. His running game's worse. Worst. His receiving core is worst. His defense worse. His kicking game's worse. Literally every single thing about that team is so pathetic. And every single thing about Tom Brady's team is above average, to excellent. And I don't think we understand how good this Bucs roster is around Tom Brady. Like, you put Deshaun Watson in this team, you put Josh Allen in this team, they're probably closer to 10-0 than they are now. They definitely don't have 4 losses. Deshaun Watson definitely wouldn't have lost to the Rams because Deshaun Watson can make stuff happen. He knows how to move. He knows how to make his running backs worth it. He knows how to use his slot wide receivers, use a number 1 wide receiver. He's shown that. Tom Brady hasn't had a true number 1 wide receiver like that since, you could argue Gronk, but Gronk really wasn't even a number 1 wide receiver to begin with. So it really has been since, I think, probably Randy Moss. I really have to be completely honest. There may be something after that, but to have a true dominant number 1 wide receiver. And it's shown now he can't really use a number 1 wide receiver to great effect, or as great effect as other quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes. Well, Patrick Mahomes is an interesting situation, but like Aaron Rodgers, like Deshaun Watson, like Drew Brees. So, yeah, it's very tough to say whether or not that these quarterbacks or Tom Brady is actually a top 10 player, because you put him in a roster like Minnesota. You put him in a roster like, I don't know, Cleveland. You put him in a roster like the Miami Dolphins. And you put Tua, you put Baker, you put Kirk Cousins in the Tampa Bay roster, and you're telling me that they couldn't have the same production? Or at least similar production? That's, especially with someone as good as Bruce Arians behind the helm. I think there's definitely some debate on whether or not those quarterbacks could thrive in that situation more than Tom Brady is now. We saw this, like, Kirk Cousins can still make throws. Kirk Cousins is still good. Baker Mayfield, if he has a good running game, can make the throws every once in a while. Tua has shown great promise. Joe Burrow is probably could be better in that system than Tom Brady. I don't even know why I forgot Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow most likely would be better than Tom Brady in the same system. So, like, I think we really have to start thinking about how good Tom Brady is now, because there's undeniably, as a whole as his career, he is the GOAT. I don't think there's any denying that he is the greatest quarterback of all time, and if not the greatest player of all time, because quarterback is the most valuable position in football. But now, at age 43, there's an argument to be made that he's not even top 10 anymore, and it's time we really realize that. Because he may still be good, but he's no longer great. He might have a great mind, but he can't make all the throws anymore. I think it's time we face it. No, really just a little more on this game is after this game. I was watching because, it's Thanksgiving break. I'm a junior in high school. What do I have better to do? And I'm looking, and I see Tom Brady walk off, and I'm like, oh, he's probably just like walking down the field more and then going to take a right to go to the center of the field. There must be some obstacle, right? But that's not the case. He just walks straight to the locker room. And then they pan to Jared Goff. And you see Jared Goff looking like an absolute headless chicken looking for Tom Brady. And it was just sad to see, because Tom Brady is 43 years old. Jared Goff has been watching this guy since he was a kid. Tom Brady won his first Super Bowl when Jared Goff was 7 years old. And to not be able to shake the man's hand after he just won them the game, pretty much. Like, he had a really good game. He outdueled Tom Brady. And not to be able to shake one of the greats' hands, the greatest quarterback of all time's hands, a guy you literally grew up watching. How many memories do all of you have before the age of 7? I bet you it's not that many. My first Super Bowl I remember was when I was 7. It was the Saints. Oh, Saints Colts. That's what it was. And I have two distinct memories. I remember the onside kick at the beginning of the second half. And I remember Drew Brees' little chitlins. Little kids just hanging around there. And I was like, damn, I just witnessed history, didn't I? And that's what really, A, got me in love with football, but that's another conversation. But B, like, that's my soonest memory. Then my next memory is not till the age of, I think it's 9, 2012, when RG3 broke his leg and basically ended the Redskins' future as a franchise for the next 10 years. Oh, if you guys don't know, I'm a huge Washington football teams fan, so at the age of 9, that was pretty bad for me. I mean, I love myself some Washington football team, but that's not what this is about. But like, imagine Jared Goff being in that situation, being as a kid and watching Tom Brady dominate the league, and then after losing to him in the Super Bowl, being able to redeem himself, even if it's in a small way, and get the victory, and then not be able to shake an idol, an icon's hand, the model consistency of greatness' hand afterwards, because he's so petty that he must walk off the field. That's pitiful. That's horrible. That's like, I don't even know what to compare it to. Like, it's really hard to compare it to something that's like tangible. It's because it's just such a respect issue. Tom Brady showed that he did not respect the Rams and the Rams enough to shake their hands, to spend 5 minutes, just 5 minutes after the game, just going through and saying thank you. And it's not like a COVID thing either, because he's done it before. He's done it during this season. It's not like, oh, he doesn't want to catch COVID, it's an extra risk, blah, 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 blah. No, he's playing still. He does this when he wins. And it's like, okay, I don't understand. It's so horrible that he did something like this to someone who legitimately is young enough to be his son. And it just is, I don't understand it. Like, just as a legitimacy thing. Like, you're a role model to so many kids out there. Why can't you just spend 5 minutes and show what a man is supposed to do after he loses? What good sportsmanship is like? And, okay, if this was the first time he's done this, I would understand. Especially if, hey, you've had a career for 20 years at this point. I forgot. I'm sorry, I forgot. It happens. But this isn't the first time. The first time he did was early. Not the first time, but the first time I remember him doing this was earlier this year. He did this with Nick Foles, and I could see more with Nick Foles. Nick Foles is basically what ended his run as best quarterback in the league. After that 2018 season, Mahomes was there the next year. It was really didn't just Mahomes, and then it was Mahomes, and it was Lamar Jackson, and now it's Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and a bunch of other people that you could say. So I named them already. 7 other quarterbacks you could say is better than him. So I understand that there's bad blood between him and Nick Foles. Maybe not from Nick Foles' side, but from Tom Brady's side. So that's also just a very sore loss for you, because you lost to him again. The 2 last times you faced, you've lost to him. And I understand that. Okay. If you didn't want to shake his hand, is it kind of a douche move? Yes. Is it understandable? Yes. But then to walk up on the podium after the interview and say, we just didn't know each other too well, is kind of weird. Because you don't know very many. Like, of course, you know a few people in the NFL. You're friendly, you're cordial. Some people have their best friends or teammates or opponents. But you don't know everyone in the NFL. It's impossible to. There's 52 men on every roster. 52, 53 men on every roster. And they're like 32 rosters plus all the coaches. You're not going to know everyone. But you still go out there every game and hug people. Tell them great game. Show them respect. Like, it's not a matter of, do I know this person? Do I not? It's a matter of respect. It's a matter of human decency. This isn't a, I know him, so I'm going to go up and congratulate him on the win. It's, this team beat us, and to show respect for the game, to show respect that I love this game and that no matter what, no matter who I'm playing, at the end of the day, they allowed me to play the game I love. So I'm going to go up, I'm going to shake their hand, and then I'm going to go back in the locker room. Is something that Tom Brady has seemed to lose. We do this in high school basketball. Like, you do this in every sport, at every level, in some form or another, just to show respect to the other team. I do this in my high school basketball team. I don't know any of the people I play, like, at all. But I still line up after the game. I still tell everyone great game. And I still congratulate them on their victory, or they congratulate me on mine. Not because there is any love between us, or love lost between us. It's because every single one of us, in one point or the other, love the game of basketball and show our respect for it. And that's what you do in every sport. No matter if it's 1v1 or 53 versus 53. You show your respect and then you move on. And not showing your respect is one of the worst things you can do. And Tom Brady has done that. And it hurts me. Like, it really legitimately hurts me to see someone of Tom Brady's caliber of player not respect this tradition of the NFL, because it's not a who cares type of thing. It's not some trivial thing. It shows respect to the game, and it shows respect to your opponent. Not doing that is just, it's infuriating, because especially for someone who is the GOAT, to not love the game enough to understand that, or not have enough forethought to grasp that, just perturbs me. It really does. And yeah, I can't. It just makes me so angry. But hopefully someone else that's like mainstream picks this up, because I don't really see like Nick Wright or Shannon Sharp or Skip Bayless or Colin Cowherd really talking about this much. They're not stressing the importance of how bad this is, and that's on them. They should show that you should be thankful to every single person in every single place, and show them that, yes, I may have lost. Yes, maybe I don't like these people, but I should show my respect for the game. And the media not, or the mainstream media at least, not showing and calling Tom Brady out for that is shameful on their part as well, because even though it might not get the best ratings, it's something that the next generation is going to pick up if we're not careful. It's going to be more and more rampant, and then eventually stuff like what we see today with the on the field, going to the middle of the field to congratulate, or standing in a line and high-fiving after a basketball game, that's not going to exist anymore, and the love for the game is going to be diminished because of that. And I don't want that to happen. So I really hope, if anyone in the media is watching this, that they take this heat and try to work it in to their next podcast or next episode, or work it into their host next episode, because it's really important to show sportsmanship in everything you do, but especially in professional sports where a lot of kids look up to you, or look up to the athletes, or look up to the media members, or look up to the announcers, or look up to the head coaches. Just to show that that base level of decency is so important. Now, that's really all I have. This wasn't a very, not jam-packed isn't the right word. This wasn't a very, like, topic-heavy podcast, and it's not like a lighthearted one, but I really wanted to touch on the sportsmanship aspect of sports, because it is one of the most important aspects of sports, because without the sportsmanship, a lot of the other rules of the game are going to need to either be enforced stricter or fall apart. So it's really important to show sportsmanship. That's why there are sportsmanship penalties. That's why there are flagrant penalties. That's why there are there are so many different things that enforce this idea of sportsmanship in each league, and we can't let it decay because it's just so super important. But thank you all for listening to this podcast. If you want to come talk to me about this podcast for any reason, go to the contact page of my blog and either text me using the phone number or email me. If you're listening to this on YouTube, click the link to my blog below and then go to that page if you want to talk to me. Haha, smart. Get you to look at my blog too. Anyway, so I really just want to thank you all for listening. On a serious note, really have a happy Thanksgiving. Really show what you're thankful for. Remember, really be sportsmanlike and show good sportsmanship in everything you do. Well, thank you all, and until next time, PD Smash, signing off.